Hey, welcome to Life Point, and we are in week 7 of our Route 66 series. We've been going through the book of James, which has been, I don't know about y'all, but it's been a great journey for me, and learned a lot. Today, we talking about James chapter 3, verse 1. So if you got your Bible, open up, but if not, I can read it for you. It says, "Not many of you should become teachers, my fellow believers, because you know that we who teach will be judged more strictly." Just one verse, but it really has a lot of information. And so I kind of want to break it down for you without re-preaching the message for those of you who are in the service. James is talking to the church. He's talking to the church that's been dispersed. So the church has scattered throughout the world because of persecution. And so these folks who were Christians, Christ followers, that spread all out, many of them were establishing new works, new churches in the places that they went. And so James is just warning them, hey, be careful. Don't just everybody just rush to teach, because there is a judgment that is for us who teach that's stricter than just, every Christ follower. And so we talked about that. We talked about what that judgment means. God judges us. Judging doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing, but we've taken it as such a negative, derogatory term. But God judges us, and people judge us. And so we talked about some of that. And I shared my calling into ministry, and everyone has a different story. Not one calling is alike, not one story is the same. But for me, my calling was very clear. I didn't have Jesus appear to me in a dream. I didn't have, things that were like really crazy supernatural. But I know without a shadow of a doubt, I know I'm supposed to be in ministry. And so much so that I have been in ministry for quite a while. Let's see, how long has that been? 25 years or more now. But and I know I'm supposed to be doing this, but does that make ministry easier? Not necessarily. I think it's important that we understand what it means for the person in ministry. Now, most of you who are in Life Point are not in ministry in the sense of a pastor or calling, but there are people who are and who might be, and so. But you have a pastor, it's probably me, but. Or someone else, but it's important for us to understand the role of the pastor, the call of the pastor, and understand, when it talks about that we will be judged more strictly, how does God judge us? God judges us as pastors for the way that we live, the way that we conduct ourselves in our marriages, in our families, with our children, how we do business, with our speech, everything, how we manage and handle His church, and so He will judge us. We will stand before Him one day and give an account for those things, and that's a sobering thing. For me, it's very sobering. It's one of the things that helps me to be careful to do the right thing, and a lot of people. In ministry, make mistakes. A lot of them. Let's not even call it a mistake. A lot of them just do stupid things. Making a mistake kind of sounds a little bit too light, but they do stupid things, and the reality is God will judge them, and it's kind of scary. I don't wish that on them, but He will, but also God will give and show grace, and that's the powerful thing too. And is that I hope that they experience God's grace. And, people judge us also. It's not just God, but people judge us. And here's the reality, and this is what I think it's important for most people who aren't in full-time ministry or aren't in a pastoral ministry role, understand is that there are a lot of people who opt out of ministry every month. There are statistics, I read them Sunday, said 1,500 people leave the ministry each month. 1,500. Now, some might say, well, then they shouldn't have been in the ministry if they left. That's not necessarily true. There's a lot of pressure There's a lot of financial pressure. There's a lot of emotional pressure. There's a lot of attack. You know, the enemy does not, he hates the church. You know, he hates the church. He hates God. And so he's going to strike the shepherd. He's going to strike the leader. And so I think sometimes because there's undue criticism and undue pressure, people do leave the ministry. So here's what I'm saying. Pray for your pastor. Encourage your pastor. Be there. You know what? Man, do what you can do to come alongside of him or her and help them. And but there is definitely judgment that takes place. There are things that happen. Here's what I'd like for you to discuss. You know, it might be kind of a confession time around your life points, but it's obvious God will judge. And, you know, we all have our war stories about, you know, pastors who have maybe abused us. You know, I have those stories as well. But when it comes to us judging, what are some things that we can do instead of criticizing and judging? You know, what are some things, and how can we encourage our pastors? How can we help them? And how can we go to the right? There are some cases where pastors need to step down. How do we go to the right people to make sure that happens? I don't think we sit back and just allow spiritual abuse to take place. But who do we go to? It's the right person or the right people to ensure the protection of the church. What are some things that you've gone through? Maybe there's some things that you still hold on to that have hurt you, that have kind of dictated some of the trust issues that you may have with a pastor. And what are those things, and how can you seek healing? Maybe in the group that you're in right now and talking about it, just you know, talking about that issue and talking about that circumstance and that thing, and how can you move on? How can you get healing and restoration in that area? And what can you do to come alongside of the pastor that you're under right now, and you're under his spiritual covering? What can you do? So those are a lot of things to talk about in LifePoint. I hope you have a good discussion. I'm sure you will. And thank you for those of you who I'm your pastor. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm glad to be your pastor, and consider it an honor. God bless.
The cross.